most interest to me, what I've learned, is that his father does not believe, his parents don't believe that their son committed this crime. I was like, huh? Excuse me? That's a far cry from what the media has been telling us. Remember, the media presented this amazing story.
Joe Rogan and Candace Owens aren't whispering. They're shouting from the rooftops that something about Charlie Kirk's case straight up doesn't make sense. And once you hear what they've been saying, you'll see why social media is exploding with theories, questions, and pure disbelief. They're not just tossing out opinions, they're pulling receipts and exposing details the mainstream refuses to touch. Their discoveries are jaw-dropping, and people all over the world are starting to wonder if the story we've been told is a cover-up. The way these two break it down will have you questioning everything. This deep dive exposes the wild inconsistencies Joe Rogan pointed out, things that straight up don't line up. You'll also hear Candace Owens drop bomb after bomb with her own investigation. And when you see the clips they've been sharing, you'll understand why they both believe the official story has more holes than Swiss cheese. We're talking crazy stuff, weapons that don't match the crime scene, suspects who somehow show up at multiple national tragedies, and witness statements that sound straight out of a bad movie script. And then there's the widow, posting smiles, living her best life, and acting like nothing ever happened. Fans are calling it cold and unreal, and honestly, it's getting hard to ignore. The vibes around this whole story just scream suspicious. But before we break down all the shady details, let's get one thing clear. Charlie Kirk wasn't just another face in politics. He was the driving force behind Turning Point USA, a man who built an empire before even hitting his mid-30s. At just 31, he became one of the loudest conservative voices in the country. But everything changed on September 10th, 2025.
The father realized his son was guilty, so it goes, right? And then he phoned over a friend to help him convince his son to turn himself in, because this guy, you know, this mysterious guy was a friend and just had a connection with Tyler. And eventually they said, you got to do the right thing here. We know this is you. That was the vibe. Certainly, that's what the media was putting down for us to pick up.
What should have been a regular student Q&A at Utah Valley University turned into a nightmare when shots suddenly rang out, and Charlie Kirk's life ended right there on stage. Within just 33 hours, yes, barely a day and a half, the FBI announced they'd solved the case. A 22-year-old named Tyler Robinson was arrested, and they said it was all wrapped up. Case closed, no loose ends, no questions allowed, but that's where the red flags start flying high. Candace Owens didn't buy it for a second. She started digging on her own, and what she found is chilling. Candace claims Charlie Kirk himself knew something was coming. The day before he was killed, not a week before, not a month, he warned 3 people that he felt his life was in danger. His exact words were, "I think they're going to kill me." Imagine that, less than 24 hours before his death, he already knew. That's not paranoia. That's a man who felt trapped in something way bigger than him. Joe Rogan called the whole official version bizarre. And he wasn't exaggerating. He said too many details just don't add up. The weapon doesn't match the wounds, the timeline feels impossible, and the suspect seems almost placed in the story. Joe's exact words.
Here's the other thing. They said that he took it apart and then put it back together again. Shut the fuck up. Do you know how much time it would take to do that if you were highly skilled?
To disassemble a gun.
To disassemble a rifle so that you can get it in a backpack. And by the way, not gonna fit.
Not gonna fit in a backpack.
And then somehow or another reconnects it once he gets off the roof? What?
None of this adds up, and people couldn't agree more. Then Candace took it even further. She revealed that 2 of the 3 people Charlie warned actually have written proof. Real messages, showing that Charlie said those chilling words hours before he died. Candace went on record saying, 3 people told me off the record, and 2 of them have written communication from Charlie himself. The very day before he died, he told them, "I think they're going to kill me." That's not gossip. That's evidence no one's talking about. Just think about it. This man literally predicted his own death, and yet nobody in power seems to care. No federal follow-up, no major press briefing, not even one transparent update. Candace says she's been begging those witnesses to come forward publicly, but so far silence. And silence this deep, it doesn't feel like fear. It feels like someone told them to stay quiet. That's more than suspicious. That's alarming. And right when you think it couldn't get stranger, Candace drops another twist. On the same day Charlie was taken out, a military aircraft flew from Texas straight to Utah, landing just hours before everything went down. Coincidence? Maybe. But in stories like this, Coincidences always come with a price. That plane didn't just land and leave. Radar shows it flying low over the exact area where the incident happened, carrying the tail number N1098L. Why would a military aircraft be circling that low during a campus event packed with students? What was it even doing there?
This story is horseshit. Like, none of these things make any sense to me. Like, you're telling me that this kid who's not military trained, this guy, first of all, how did he get to the roof? How come nobody was looking? How come nobody was like, there's a direct line of sight between where he's sitting and those roofs? You guys didn't check? You don't have a drone? Like, that's insane. So he's on the roof, he shoots, he jumps from the roof. He jumps down 14 feet.
Candace dug into the records and found that this very plane was once used by the U.S. military, registered under Lacey Aviation, LLC. But now, no one will say who's controlling it. That kind of secrecy says it all. Candace's theory is bold. She believes this wasn't just some lone shooter with a grudge, but a coordinated operation that was planned down to the last second. As she put it herself, the more you peel back the onion, the clearer it gets. This was a military operation. And honestly, the deeper you go, the more that idea starts to sound possible. Because seriously, how does a 22-year-old pull off something like this right under the shadow of a military aircraft? It doesn't add up, not one bit. Candace didn't hold back. She even called out the FBI director by name. "Hey, Kash Patel, most transparent ever, except when it comes to Epstein. What's up with this plane?" she said. According to her, Patel knows exactly who chartered that flight, but he's keeping it locked up tighter than a state secret. No answers, no accountability, just silence. And when people in power stay quiet about something this big, that's when you really know something's off. But that's not where it stops. Joe Rogan's take on this story blasts it to a whole new level of madness. When he heard what officials said about the supposed weapon used, he couldn't believe his ears. Investigators claim Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old with zero training.
The very day before Charlie Kirk died, he expressed that he thought he was going to be killed. He told these people, "I think they're going to kill me." Okay? He did not express that to me, so I am telling you this based off the testimony of 3 people. And I am saying this because I hope that these people who I think are good will be inspired to come forward with that.
Used his grandfather's World War I rifle? Yeah, a century-old antique with no serial number. Sounds shady already, right? Well, buckle up. It gets even wilder. Authorities say Tyler somehow took apart that old rifle, stuffed the separate pieces into a backpack, climbed onto a rooftop, and then magically reassembled it before firing the fatal shot. Joe Rogan couldn't help but laugh at the idea, saying, "They said he took it apart and put it back together again?" Shut the up! Do you know how much time that would take, even if you were highly skilled? He was stunned, and so was everyone listening. Experts agree that putting a weapon like that together isn't child's play. It takes serious skill, specialized tools, and laser focus. So how did a 22-year-old amateur pull that off in the dark, under pressure, while supposedly hitting a moving target perfectly from a distance? It just doesn't make sense. Joe's reaction said it all. He called the rifle story flat out nonsense. He pointed out the obvious. World War I rifles aren't small gadgets, they're heavy-duty steel beasts. You don't just break one down, toss it in a backpack, and whip it back out like a toy. Even if you tried, the process would take forever, especially while hiding on a rooftop in front of witnesses. You'd need a toolkit, military-level training, and nerves of steel to pull off that kind of precision. No random 22-year-old could manage that in real life. No way. Joe's conclusion? None of this adds up. And honestly, he's spot on.
Again, those conversations I had were off record. I honor that. If I say it's off record, it stays off record. But I'm hoping that watching what I am doing and feeling the energy that is rising across the world for people who want to know what the heck happened on 9/10, that, you know, they will be brave and they will say, yeah, Charlie did the day before he died think that he was going to be killed, and maybe tell us, who is they? Well, for once and for all, who is they? Who is the they that he thought were going to kill him?
The story sounds like it was written by someone who's never seen a real gun, let alone handled one. The inconsistencies are insane, and yet that's what the public was told to believe. But just when you think this case couldn't get stranger, it does. Because now, we've got the decoy man, and this part, straight up unbelievable. Witnesses say that right after the shooting, an older man appeared at the scene yelling, "I did it! I did it!" before suddenly stripping off his pants. Total chaos erupted. People thought he was either traumatized or trying to cause a distraction, but when Joe and his team looked deeper into who this mystery man was, things took a sharp left turn into the bizarre. Reports claim this same man has been spotted at multiple national tragedies, from 9/11 to the Boston Marathon bombing, even at other fake threat incidents. Joe couldn't believe it and said what everyone was thinking: how are you at all these different things? What are the odds? He joked that even if you ran the numbers through an AI system, it would say 0. Because seriously, what are the chances that one random man just happens to show up at every major national disaster in the past 20 years? So what's going on here? Is he just cursed with the worst luck ever? Or is something much darker happening behind the scenes? Joe put it bluntly, maybe the man's professionally insane. Or maybe he's planted at these events to stir confusion and throw off the public.
I don't know. It's one thing if your husband dies, period. It's another thing if your husband dies at age 31, unexpectedly. It's another thing if your 31-year-old husband unexpectedly dies because he gets publicly executed with blood gushing out in front of thousands of people screaming and running away. That's like something that's...
And guess what? Right after the Charlie Kirk shooting, that same decoy guy was suddenly arrested. But not for the shooting. No, he was charged with unrelated crimes involving minors, which legally blocked anyone from interviewing him again. How convenient is that? Too convenient, because once those charges dropped, every chance to question him vanished. The narrative got buried fast. Joe didn't mince words. Does that sound like coincidence to you? He asked. And honestly, it doesn't. Not to him, not to anyone paying attention. And just when the confusion hit its peak, another twist came out. And this one changed everything. Candace Owens reached out directly to Tyler Robinson's family, and what she heard totally shattered the media's hero dad narrative. The official version says Tyler's father supposedly realized his son was guilty and turned him in, painting it like a good father doing the right thing. But according to Candace's sources, that's not what happened. She talked to people close to the family, and they told her the opposite. Tyler's parents never believed he was guilty. They told Candace point blank their son didn't do it. And if that's true, then the whole story we've been fed might be built on lies. Candace teased her next reveal, saying, "Of most interest to me." And what came after that line shook everyone watching, because she dropped another explosive twist. Tyler Robinson's own father doesn't believe his son committed the crime. None of the family does. That's massive, because if his own parents don't buy the story, who really turned Tyler in? According to Candace, it wasn't his dad at all. It was a family friend, a retired police detective who made the call. That ex-cop allegedly told the Robinsons that Tyler had been identified as the shooter and warned that if he didn't surrender peacefully, SWAT would break in. Can you imagine hearing that about your own kid? Tyler reportedly panicked, saying over and over that he didn't do it, that it was all wrong. But here's the kicker. Candace says her sources confirmed that Tyler had never even been to Utah Valley University. He wasn't a student, never attended events there, nothing. He was accepted to Utah State, a totally different school. So how does that make sense? How could someone unfamiliar with UVU's layout pull off a sniper-style hit from a rooftop he'd never even seen before? There's no logical answer. None. And yet, that's the story the world's supposed to believe. Something here stinks, and Joe and Candace are both making sure nobody forgets it. There's one blurry photo that supposedly shows Tyler Robinson near the scene that day, grabbing something at Dairy Queen. But Candace says even that doesn't prove what they claim it does. Sure, maybe that's the photo they used to link him to the area, but come on, what was he doing there if he wasn't even a student at Utah Valley University? Too many sketchy details, not nearly enough real answers. And now things get uncomfortable because we've got to talk about Erica, Charlie Kirk's widow. Nobody wants to accuse a grieving spouse. It feels cruel. It feels wrong. But the internet just can't ignore her behavior since Charlie's death. Nick Fuentes was one of the first to say it out loud, and honestly, he just voiced what millions have been whispering behind closed doors. Erica reportedly took over Turning Point USA only 72 hours after Charlie's death. 3 days, not weeks, not even a proper mourning period. 3 days. She was already back on camera, filming content, smiling in interviews, giving speeches like nothing happened. Nick didn't sugarcoat it. He said, "It's one thing if your husband dies. It's another thing if your 31-year-old husband gets publicly executed with blood gushing out in front of thousands of screaming people, and you're back on camera days later." That quote hit deep, because he's right. If your husband is gunned down in front of a live crowd, wouldn't you need time to breathe, to cry, to even function again? Nick said exactly what everyone else was thinking. It's super inappropriate. It's weird. Something is off here and I don't like it. Sure, everyone grieves differently. Maybe Erica threw herself into work to cope. Maybe she was trying to stay strong, but when you start connecting dots, the sudden control of Turning Point, the smiling interviews, and whispers of missing funds, it starts to feel like there's way more to the story, especially when you remember that Charlie was reportedly about to launch a massive internal audit just days before his death. That's not random timing. That's a potential motive. Candace Owens has been saying it from the start. Something stinks. If Charlie really uncovered something dangerous in those financial records, then maybe the people who stood to lose the most weren't outsiders at all. Maybe they were right next to him the whole time. The deeper this story goes, the darker it gets, and it's giving people chills. Now here's the wild part. When Candace started following the money trail, she said everything started to click, because just 1 week before Charlie's death, he publicly announced that audit, saying millions of dollars were missing from Turning Point's accounts. Millions. He promised to find out where that money went and who was behind it. And then, exactly 7 days later, he was gone. You don't have to be a detective to see how suspicious that looks. Candace believes this audit could have exposed something way bigger than anyone expected. Maybe even something powerful enough to get him silenced. But then she shared something truly eerie, a dream she had about Charlie after his passing. She said in that dream, Charlie came to her and said he'd been betrayed. Now, whether you believe in dreams or not, Candace swore this one felt real, like he was sending her a message from beyond. She said, "I don't know who exactly it is that betrayed him, but I felt in the dream that it's soon going to be revealed. It's inevitable. Nothing and no one will stop the truth from coming out." That line gave everyone chills. And then she took it one step further. Candace said the truth, when it finally surfaces, will have international consequences. Think about that. International, that's not small-time politics, that's global-level drama. So what on earth did Charlie Kirk uncover that could have shaken things beyond US borders? And if the stakes were that high, why aren't the people closest to him fighting for justice? Candace pointed out that it's only her, Tucker Carlson, and Megyn Kelly talking about it. Meanwhile, the people who worked beside Charlie every single day, total silence. No statements, no demands for answers, nothing. She said that silence alone feels very suspicious. And she's got a point. She asked, "Why hasn't anyone made a move to vindicate what I've been saying about what he was going through?" Because seriously, if your colleague, your leader, your friend dies under such bizarre circumstances, wouldn't you fight tooth and nail for the truth? Wouldn't you demand transparency? Now let's rewind to the moment this whole nightmare began. Joe Rogan was live on air when the news broke. You can literally hear him reading it out loud, voice shaking. This just happened. We just found out that Charlie Kirk got shot. You could feel his disbelief. That moment wasn't staged. It was raw, real, and heartbreaking. And from that day forward, Joe and Candace haven't stopped digging, questioning, and demanding the truth. Because at this point, it's not just about politics, it's about betrayal, silence, and the haunting question that refuses to go away. Who really betrayed Charlie Kirk, and why? Joe Rogan's reaction when the news broke was pure shock. You could hear the disbelief in his voice. He was live on air, scrolling through updates, refreshing Twitter, and trying to piece together the chaos in real time. His words hit like a gut punch. "It doesn't seem real. It feels surreal. It's gonna take a long time before we even process this as something that really happened." That moment captured the confusion and heartbreak of millions watching it unfold. No one expected something like this. Joe then pointed out how divided things have gotten in America, saying some people would actually celebrate Charlie's death just because of his politics. "No one deserves this," he said. "Not for having different opinions, not for saying what they believe." Then he added, "But I know people are gonna celebrate it because this is a messed up time." And sadly, he wasn't wrong. Some people online really did make sick jokes and memes treating a tragedy like entertainment. That kind of cruelty shows just how broken the internet has become. But here's the thing. This story goes way beyond one shocking event. It matters because when voices like Joe Rogan and Candace Owens both start calling out holes in the official story, it's not gossip anymore. It's a red flag. When timelines don't match up, when witnesses disappear, and when the details sound like fiction, that's when people in a free country have to start asking questions. That's not spreading conspiracies, that's using common sense. Candace Owens said she's been dragged online just for asking tough questions. Critics told her to shut up and let the family grieve, but she clapped back with a statement that hit home. "They want us to believe the best way to honor Charlie is to stay silent." Now that's the exact opposite of what he stood for. Charlie literally spent his life asking questions, speaking truth, and challenging narratives. And she's absolutely right. The best way to honor Charlie Kirk isn't by staying quiet, It's by doing exactly what he did, asking what really happened and not settling for easy, polished answers. He built his career on exposing what didn't make sense, and now people are doing the same for him. Then Joe Rogan added something that made everyone stop and think. He said if someone wanted to destroy public trust completely, they'd flood the internet with so much chaos and so many half-truths that no one would ever know what's real anymore. Then he looked at the camera and said, maybe that's the point. Joe's theory? The system is being overloaded with confusion on purpose to bury the truth under a mountain of nonsense. And honestly, doesn't that feel like what's happening right now? Let's lay it all out clearly one more time, because the list of unanswered questions is staggering. We've got a weapons story that makes no logical sense, an antique rifle that somehow worked like a sniper's dream. We've got a decoy suspect who's appeared at multiple national tragedies. We've got Charlie warning 3 people just a day before he died that he thought they were coming for him. We've got a military plane flying suspiciously low right before the attack. We've got a widow taking over Turning Point USA within 72 hours of the tragedy, and millions of dollars missing from the same organization Charlie was preparing to audit. Now be honest, does any of that sound like a random 22-year-old gone rogue? Or does it sound like something way bigger? Something with layers of planning and power behind it? Because if everything Candace and Joe uncovered holds even a grain of truth, then the real story might be hiding in plain sight. One thing's for sure, the official version is full of holes. And when 2 of the boldest voices in the media, Joe Rogan and Candace Owens, both say something's off, maybe it's time for the rest of us to stop scrolling and start thinking, because this might not just be about Charlie Kirk, this might be about a system that doesn't want us to see what's really going on. So what do you think? Do these strange coincidences and missing details make you suspicious? Or do you still believe the official report? Drop your thoughts below. I read every single comment and I want to know your take on this mess. And if you want to stay ahead of this wild story as it unfolds, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update. Because trust me, this saga is far from over. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.